This course, this is module 6, and the course is automobile driving methods, as we know. So where we've been looking at so in the previous modules we've discussed several different topics on motorbike, and including car and the likes, in the types of car, trucks, and so on. So now, to make it different, so this is module 6, and in this module we'll be looking at navigating on three wheels. That is our topic for this module. So which implies that we'll be looking at driving a tricycle safely and professionally. So how to drive a tricycle professionally and safely. This is the main idea of this module, of this topic, sorry. So, and for the content of the module, we have one to be unique handling and stability characteristics. So, and after that we'll be moving on to the step-by-step guide, that is the steering, acceleration and braking. And also, after the step-by-step guide, we'll be looking at the managing passengers and load safely, that is how to manage the passengers and load safely for stability. Then the last content for this module will be looking at operational considerations for urban environment. And for the introduction, we have that tricycles, they occupy a unique position in global in transportation, serving as crucial mobility solutions in developing economies, while also finding niche applications in developed nations. That is to tell us that tricycles is a unique means of global transportation, which serve as mobility solutions in different, but not only developing economies country, but also in developed nations. So now let's look at to continue furthermore. However, tricycles present distinct handling characteristics and stability challenges that differ significantly from both two-wheeled and four-wheeled. So when we're talking about these two-wheeled and four-wheeled vehicles, what they are trying to imply here is that the bike and the vehicle and the car, be it a car or truck, so far it is four vehicles. That is, there are different characteristics in handling bike and vehicle and car that is mostly common to the people. So in handling tricycle, there are some little characteristic differences. However, the addition of a third wheel and passenger compartment fundamentally alters vehicle dynamics, which creates handling behaviors that can surprise inexperienced operators. So these little changes can if not handled or well taken care of, can give or can create handling behaviors which can also surprise inexperienced operators. So in this module, will be providing us with a comprehensive instruction in tricycle operation, and not only that, from also understanding the fundamental stability principles through practical driving techniques, and also move on to passenger and load management. Then finally, specialized urban operational considerations. So these are the main modules, the main ideas, the main content that I'll be looking at in this module, and which entails the practical driving techniques, passenger and load management, that is how to load the passengers and how to balance the passengers and the load properly for stability, and the specialized urban operational consideration, that is those are the considerations, the rules and regulations, rules and do's and don'ts when we are driving tricycle in an urban environment. So now moving on, we have this is a clear picture of what a tricycle is, especially in this part of the country that we are, that is Nigeria, which is mostly used in most urban places like Lagos. We have it in Ibadan, we have it in Lagos and the likes, name it. So this is tricycle, and it is mostly used for commercial purpose, also for transportation of goods and services from one place, not only goods but also passengers, and it is used for commercial purpose, as I've stated earlier. This is a clear image. We have it's not limited, but let's just take Nigeria as a typical example. It's not this tricycle is not limited to Nigeria. No. It is also mostly used in some part of the world like India, mostly India and China. So moving on, we have the dental configuration, which is 1, front wheel, that is the steering, and 2, rear wheels, that's the driven. We also have the stability triangle, that is the vehicle tips if center of gravity moves outside the triangle formed by the 3 wheels. Then we will also be looking at the key stability factors. So these are the factors that is very essential when we are talking about stability in tricycle. We have 1 to be higher center of gravity, which implies that increased rollover risk. Then we have the narrower track width, and that's less resistance in corners. Then we also have the rear biased based width when loaded. and in this base weight when loaded, it also affects balance. Then we have the short wheelbase, and that one is going towards agile. Is agile but less stable. So let's look at the critical handling characteristics. So how we can critically handle tricycle and the characteristics. We have one under that we have cornering behavior. That is, to do that we have upright through turns, unlike motorcycles. So this is quite different from motorcycle. When we are driving motorcycles, we have for tricycle we have upright through turn, and we also have risk at high speed. These are under critical handling characteristics. Risk at high speed. So under that we have body roll, inside where we lift off, then we roll over. So when there is high speed, it's mostly risky in tricycles. When we have safe cornering speed, that is 90-degree urban turn, which is maximum of 25 to 30 km/h. Then when we are looking at sharp U-turn, the speed should be within the range of 10 to 20 km/h. Not only that, we have adjust for. That is, under that we'll be looking at the passenger load, the road surface, and camber. So let's look at the braking characteristics now. So under the braking characteristics, we have heavy forward weight transfer during braking. That is, during braking, forward weight, we should be aware that there will be heavy forward weight during braking. That is, and mostly it is the front brake that is mostly effective, and it is said to have the size to carry 70% of braking balance. So however, moving on, we have stopping distances longer than cars. So because under that we have narrow tires, no ABS, high weight to tire ratio. So let's look at the brake balance now, where we have the front to be 70% while the rear is 30%. That's why, as we've mentioned initially, that the front brake is said to be mostly effective. So moving on, let's look at the step-by-step guide. That is from starting and moving off a tricycle. So under the step-by-step, under this subtopic, we have pre-operation checks. Before riding a tricycle, it is very essential to check the condition of the tricycle, and by doing this, this is what we call pre-operation checks. Before starting or before any other thing, make sure these are the mostly important things that need to be checked. And number one under that, we have tire pressure and condition. We should, as a professional tricyclist, we should try to check the condition of the tire of the tricycle before we start. Then we check the brakes, the steering, and the light. It is very essential, because we can't just take our tricycle to the road and start riding without checking these essential subjects. What if we have a case of emergency and there has been issue with this important parts of the important parts of the tricycle? So the brakes, the steering, and the lights is very essential before starting. Then we check the fuel, the oil, and the chain drive. It's also essential to know the range or the level of the fuel and the oil of the tricycle, to avoid any kind of unforeseen circumstances while riding tricycle. So let's move on to the fourth pre-operation checks, which is passenger compartment secure. And the last one is the documents. Before we start the tricycle, we should ensure that the necessary documents that is requested according to the rules and regulations of the country is well intact in the tricycle. Check the license, the registration, the riding license or driver's license if possible. Any other kind of documents that is needed is there. Then we're looking at step by step in moving off. Before we can move on, what are those things that the guide, the necessary things that need to be done? We can move on before we can move on safely. We have one to be check surroundings and signal. First, it's very essential before you can move. You make sure you check your surroundings, check the left and the right, especially the left, to ensure that we don't have any uncontrollable or a vehicle or motorcyclist coming before we move off. Make sure that everywhere is safe. And then the clutch in, we clutch in and select first gear. So after that, you find friction points, then smooth throttle. Smooth throttle is not that we should just raise the throttle unnecessarily, but smooth throttle. Then we have coordinate clutch and throttle. Make sure the throttle and the clutch are coordinated. Then you accelerate smoothly and not uncontrollably. So let's look at steering and braking techniques. So under this we're looking at the steering and braking. So the first way, techniques that we're looking at is the steering. So when we want to steer, we have both hands on handle bears. The both hands will be on the handle bears, then they will be relaxed and grip efficiently. Then two, slow before corners. That is, we should complete braking before turning. We should ensure that there is perfect. We slow down perfectly, efficiently before turning. So it's like if you try to, we can't just turn on emotion or on speed. It will lead to something else entirely. So then the third one, we have look through the turn to your exit. Then four, avoid sudden steering inputs. That's that under steering. So now let's move to braking. So in situations where we have normal braking, to do that we have progressive pressure, downshift smoothly. So normal braking whereby we are aware that we want to stop. So we put progressive pressure on the brake, then we downshift smoothly, slowly, and not by in rush or in haste. So in case of emergency braking, we have straight bike only, then maximum brake pressure, then clutching. Those are the steps when we have emergency braking. So in a situation where we have braking with passengers, then under that we have brake earlier, more gently, then we communicate as a professional tricyclist rider or tricyclist. You make sure you communicate if possible. It depends on the condition of the road and the lines where you want to brake, when you want to brake in. So now let's look at the managing passengers and loads. These are another subtopics. Under that we have passenger safety principles. So these are the basic principles that needs to be abided or guided or followed when we want when we want to have proper safety for our passengers. So one, under that we have never exceed legal capacity. So two, we have balanced left right loading. So it is critical for stability. So make sure that the load in the left and right is balanced, is stable, and not that it is somehow leaning toward the right than the left. So now we also have secure all luggage, low and centered. Then it is essential, and the first one is that you to assist elderly, disabled and children. You should assist them in climbing or in sitting properly and make sure they are well seated and the likes. Then you can also brief passengers. That's another managing passengers, passenger safety principle. Sorry, you can also brief passenger, tell them to remain seated, to hold on. Then we also have professional communication. You greet them warmly. One of upcoming turn of stores, you make sure you give them proper warning about what you see that they can't see. So cautious language also is very essential. Then cultural sensitivity, be culturally sensitive, and agree on fare before departure. This is very essential when you are riding a tricycle. Make sure you agree on the fare between you and the passengers. You've all agreed on a particular fare, not that during the course of riding or driving then unexpected arguments and all. It can also lead to something bad or accident. So make sure you've agreed on fare before departure. So let's look at the urban navigation, that is the traffic strategies in urban. So just like we have seen in the picture in this slide, we have traffic strategies. We want to be lane positioning. Make sure that you stay visible and avoid blind spots so that it won't affect it won't cause any cause for alarm. So intersection, it is high risk. Make sure you stop fully and wait for clear gap before you can intersect. So roundabouts under this traffic urban navigation, yield under roundabouts we have yield to circulating traffic, signal exits and the like. Parking, use designated zones, don't block traffic. So make sure you park appropriately and you park when in designated areas. So let's look at the weather adaptation now. So when we are riding, weather is also essential. When it is raining, that is, you must ensure that you reduce speed by 25 to 50%, and make sure your hands is always on brake earlier. Make sure you brake, your hands is always on brake, because we can't know what it's always blurry when it is raining, so we don't know what is coming. So make sure your hands is on brake and you reduce the speed. When there is fog, you use lights and reduce speed, increase following distance. And however, when there is wind, you grip firmly, anticipate gust and the like. So when there is heat, on the other hand, you hydrate and monitor engine temperature. Make sure you monitor the engine temperature to avoid any kind of damages that it might happen, because it is very essential to take note of this weather. So now let's look at maintenance and compliance. As we mentioned earlier, it is very essential when you to maintain your tricycle to avoid and any kind of delay and emergency or accident. So now let's look at daily and weekly checks. Make sure you check your tricycle daily and weekly. Tires, brakes, fluids, and lights. These are very essential. Make sure you check them daily, and clean. You make sure you clean vehicle, because professionalism attracts customer. That is, when you are professionally clean, it will attract more customers for you. And also follow manufacturer service intervals. Make sure you follow the manufacturer service intervals. When it is time to service your tricycle, you go. If it is 3 months interval, go and service it. It is very essential, because those that the manufacturer knows why they requested that you service your tricycle within the range of this so period. Now let's look at legal and regulatory compliance. So in doing that, we have valid license with appropriate class. You ensure that your license is valid and you've attended the appropriate class before you can ride a tricycle. Then 2, we have current registration and insurance. So let's look at, then we have route, business, and permits if required. So if it is for those that are using it for commercial or for business, make sure you collect the necessary permits and route permits to avoid any kind of embarrassment or delay as a whole. So we also have safety equipment we also have safety equipment like fire extinguisher, first aid kits, and the likes. These are very essential things that should be in a tricycle. So now let's move on to income optimization for commercial operators. So efficiency. When you are the profits of being efficient, you learn high demand routes and times. It also minimize empty runs, reduce idle time, smooth driving saves. That is, when you drive smoothly, it will save fuel and reduce wear. So under that, we have safety. Also, we have safety profitability. Sorry. So accidents, you have when you don't drive safely and there is accidents, it leads to safety income plus repair costs. So you lost income plus repair costs. You have to repair your the damage. There will be a particular damage that you have to repair, and it is draining your money, whether you like it or not. So now we should also look at professional conduct. Also prevent conflict and maintain vehicle to avoid breakdowns. So key principles for safe operation, we have 1 to be stability awareness, smooth operation as the second one, professional conduct as the third one, regulatory compliance as the fourth one, and the fifth one is continuous improvement. So under this, we have some little explanation that needed to be known. So under stability awareness, by doing it, we respect center of gravity and loading balance. So smooth operations, passengers' comfort and safety depends on this smooth operation. For the professional conduct, we have that it builds reputation and also gain customers trust. So for the regulatory compliance, it protects your license and livelihood as a whole. So because if you are delayed, that's for especially those that are using it for commercial, for business, and you are delayed, or you are being charged unnecessarily, you won't have the to ride your tricycle for a couple of days, or it is being seized or anything like that, or your driving license, because of you don't have driving license, you are being charged a so amount. This will also affect our livelihood. So continuous improvement will always refine your skills and or knowledge as a whole. So in conclusion, I believe we'll be able to address the main contents of riding a tricycle, the do's and don'ts, how to start, the steering and the likes, the braking. These are major things that we've addressed in this module. And tricycle, it is important to know that tricycle provide essential, affordable mobility worldwide. So it is easy, it is essential, and it is easily affordable. It is affordable, yes, for the masses, for the less privileges mostly. Sorry to use that language. And we have, it is safe, it is professional. Its professional operation protects passengers, the operators, and other road users. So when you operate professionally, it will protect your passenger, not only you.